You want to believe, don't you? But there is a part of your brain, the modern analytical part, that demands data. It's the Thomas in all of us. The part that says, unless I see the mark of the nails and put my finger into the place of the nails, I will not believe. We live in a world of pixels and deepfakes, where seeing is no longer believing. But what if I told you that 2,000 years ago, a technology was released into the world that we are only now beginning to understand? A technology that isn't digital, but biological. A piece of ancient linen that contains information that should not exist. This is the Shroud of Turin, and it isn't just a relic. It is a 3D snapshot of the exact moment the world changed forever. Let's look at the stakes here. If this cloth is a forgery, it is the most sophisticated psychological operation in human history. Produced by a medieval artist who somehow understood 20th century physics. But if it's real, then the gospel isn't just a beautiful story, it's a forensic report. You are looking at the physical signature of God, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The breakthrough didn't happen in a church. It happened at NASA. In 1976, two scientists, John Jackson and Eric Jumper, used a device called the VP8 image analyzer. This machine was designed to turn 2D photographs of planetary surfaces into 3D topographical maps. If you put a regular photograph into a VP8, the result is a distorted, unrecognizable mess, because photographs don't contain depth information. They only contain light and shadow. But when they placed an image of the shroud into the analyzer, the screen didn't show a distorted face. It showed a perfect three-dimensional human form. This is a logical impossibility. It means the image on the cloth was not formed by light hitting a lens. It was formed by a body's distance from the cloth. The closer the body was to the linen, the darker the image. This is encoded data. A mapping of a human body in space. No artist in history, medieval or modern, has ever painted with depth encoded information. It would be like trying to paint a portrait where every brushstroke also accounts for the exact millimeter of distance between the tip of your nose and the canvas. It cannot be done. Yet there it is. Let's pause for a second. Think about the silence of that tomb. Think about the weight of the darkness. We often treat the resurrection as a spiritual event, something that happened in the hearts of the apostles. But the shroud tells us it was a physical event. A burst of energy so intense it scorched the very fibers of time. When we look closer at the man on the shroud, the precision of the data becomes overwhelming. Forensic pathologists have mapped every wound, and they don't match medieval art. They match Roman reality. In the Middle Ages, artists always depicted the nails going through the palms of the hands. But we know now, through skeletal analysis, that the palms cannot support the weight of a human body. The nails would have torn through. On the shroud, the exit wounds are in the wrists. Exactly where a Roman executioner would have placed them to ensure the body stayed on the cross. And then there is the scourging. The man on the cloth was beaten by two men. We can tell by the angle of the marks. There are over 120 lash marks, each one delivered by a Roman flagrum. A whip tipped with lead balls designed to tear the flesh. This isn't just suffering. It's a calculated, systematic destruction of a human being. Why does this matter to you? Because it proves that the God who created the stars didn't just sympathize with our pain. He let it write its history onto his very skin. Every 60 seconds we need to reset our perspective. Look at the world around you. We are obsessed with high definition. We want the best cameras, the clearest screens. We want to see everything. But for centuries, the shroud was a negative image. It looked blurry and strange to the naked eye. It wasn't until 1898, when Secondo Pia took the first photograph of it, that the world saw the truth. When he looked at his photographic plate in the darkroom, he didn't see a negative. He saw a positive. The cloth itself is the negative, which means the real image has been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years, waiting for the invention of a camera to be fully revealed. Think about the irony of that. God left a film strip in a tomb that could only be developed by the technology of the future. He was waiting for us to catch up. But how was the image actually made? This is where the materialist explanation falls apart. Scientists from the NEA, the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, tried to replicate the shroud image using every known method. They tried heat, chemicals, vapors, and painting. They failed. They eventually discovered that the only way to create that specific scorch on the topmost layer of the linen fibers without burning through the cloth was through a short, intense burst of vacuum ultraviolet radiation. To create the image of the man on the shroud, you would need a power source equivalent to several billion watts of light radiation, far beyond any technology available in the Middle Ages and arguably beyond what we can precisely control today. The image isn't on the cloth, it is the cloth. The fibers have been dehydrated and oxidized in a way that suggests they were touched by a flash of light so pure, it left a permanent shadow of the divine. This brings us to the psychological reality of your own life. We often feel like we are living in a negative. We see the suffering, the chaos, the confusion, and we think, where is God? But the shroud suggests that the positive is already here, it's just encoded in a way we don't always recognize. The resurrection wasn't just a reanimation of a corpse. It was a victory of light over the very laws of physics. If you are struggling today, if you feel like the darkness is winning, I want you to look at the face of the man on the shroud. He is calm. Despite the trauma, despite the blood, despite the systematic torture, there is a profound peace in those closed eyes. It is the peace of a king who has already won. The blood on the shroud is real. Type AB, the same type found in every major Eucharistic miracle. It contains high levels of bilirubin, a chemical produced by the body during extreme physical trauma. This man didn't die peacefully in his sleep. He was crushed by the weight of the world's sin. And yet he rose. The carbon-14 dating from 1988 claimed the cloth was a medieval fake. But that study has since been torn apart by peer-reviewed research. They sampled a corner of the cloth that had been repaired and rewoven with cotton after a fire. They dated the repair, not the original linen. New X-ray dating techniques have placed the cloth exactly in the 1st century, the time of Christ. So here's the comment bait. The question that requires you to move from spectator to participant. If you were standing in that tomb, and you saw that flash of light, and you saw this cloth falling flat as the body it wrapped simply vanished, what would you say to him? Drop a comment below. Let's talk about the moment your doubt met the data. We spend so much time looking for signs. But the shroud is more than a sign, it is a mirror. It reflects our capacity for cruelty in the lash marks. And it reflects God's capacity for love in the light. You don't need a PhD to understand the message here. You just need the humility to realize that you are loved by a God who is willing to have his heartbeat stopped, just so he could show you how to start yours again. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the silence of the linen. The shroud isn't a mystery to be solved. It's a person to be encountered. His name is Jesus. He isn't a character in a book. He is the man who left his ID card in a tomb to make sure you could find your way home. The data is in. The image is 3D, the blood is real, and the tomb is empty. The question is, what are you going to do with the truth? Walk toward the light. Because the light has already come for you. You want to believe? The evidence is right in front of you. You just have to open your eyes.